This is one man
and his therapist. So, Stephen, how are you?
I'm really good today, thank you, Zach. Last week you set me kind of a challenge of, you know what? I catch myself. I start talking and then I'm like, I need to ask him how he is first. Oh,
Terrible.
oh, really?
No. Thanks for asking. Yeah. Today is a very busy day in practice, and I am ready to work with you. And I suppose the hardest thing for me today so far has been to park and shelve all else that's on my mind and just find a space for you. But that's the nature of this work, that we sit down before we start session with clients, and I have to say, find my space now for Stephen. Find him his space. So I have found your space, and thank you for asking. But it's back to you. How are you?
Cool. I appreciate your honesty. It's nice. Yeah, I am really good, and the reason being is, well, there's a mass of reasons, but one thing you set me kind of a little task last week was to start to you made it so clear to me, more clear than I think I kind of forgot, really. I mean, with the exercise, I mean, I've always exercised my whole life, and the last year and a half since being in Romania, I've been doing it twice a week with a trainer, but then kind of not really putting a lot of effort in otherwise, apart from walking the dog. But you were like, look, man, as a sober individual, it's like, it is almost your obligation. That's the way it sounded to me. That's the way I heard it, to really be investing in this part of your life. And you said, if you really see if you can really up the ante, kind of thing. At least that's how I heard it. And so I did. And so this week has been, but it's amazing because that commitment to that has led to a commitment to another thing, which is a diet thing. And I'm doing, which is something I've done before, intermittent fasting. I love it. I'm eating in an 8-hour window. I'm eating very healthily. Rebecca's away in France right now, and I have nothing to do with Rebecca being away, but I'm finding, well, it is, but not in a bad way, as in I'm better off without her or anything. But like, I am finding something new within me right now. And I feel like that guy, there's a film called Limitless with Bradley Cooper, and he takes a pill, and then there's like something lights up. I'm high as a kite.
Okay.
That's how I am right now.
That's how you are right now. Okay. Yeah. I suppose when we think of being high, most people don't think of the natural high. We always automatically move to or think about some artificial getting out of your head type process. But to hear you being high as a kite in the most natural way, that's wonderful. That's great. And how does it compare to chemically induced highs, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think obviously it's not quite as high in the physical sense, as in you're not completely abandoning every issue or every, thing that might niggle at your mind or whatever, which you can in a chemically induced high, but there's a purity to it that you don't get with the chemically induced high, and there's a complete lack of guilt, which is, the best thing. It's pure and free, and it's very nice. And it's real, and it's interesting for me because I was just writing before we started session, and I was like, there's nothing exceptional happening in my life. I'm just going through my days as normal. But I'm getting a buzz out of routine, out of finding different structures, out of testing what wake-up time works for me, out of cooking because Rebecca is an amazing cook. So a lot of the time when she's there, I don't do any cooking, and it's like I'm cooking again, and I love that. And it's like all these little things are just I'm really enjoying the simple things of life, and yeah, it's nice.
Well, you had me at lacking guilt.
Mm.
That was it. I went, okay, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, the guilt and shame attached to your family of origin, your role, the role you play. Is that something that we'll bring into discussion today, or is that maybe for another time?
It's completely something I have it written down, because actually a couple of weeks ago we said that we would, because of this time now where Rebecca's away for a few weeks, and we said it would be a good, useful time to try and look at this. We used the word baggage, the baggage of others on my mind and soul and body, and that's still there, of course. And and one of my, I think I've said it to you before, but it's like a default of mine. When I'm having these highs, which is, I do go to the place of, but how's Dad? How's he right now?
Hmm.
What about Mum and the plans for the summer? How's Rebecca doing? Blah 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 blah. So all these things are still there, of course, and not of course. They should. I mean, I don't think they should be necessarily, or they should be in a practical way. What can we do about it? But not to be just sucked into a kind of a miserable place because I'm thinking about how my dad might be right now in this moment and imagining it not being a very good situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we often set about trying to release our guilt, get rid of old shameful feelings. But I think it's much more practical to maybe look at just redefining your dynamic in your relationship with the people in your life now. So this is about focusing on a redefinition of your connection with your mom and dad. Not so much about what we have to let go of, what you have to release, what you have to stop doing. This is often too much for us, too much of a demand. So just looking at how to reshape or redefine the role you play for each other. You, of course, focusing on the role you play for yourself within that. Have you got thoughts around how you would like to see this role redefined?
Um, well, I mean, I think in the real world, in the practical world, in many ways, the role is well defined. As in, especially with my father, it's not an overly involved role. I'm there for him if he needs me. I call him every few days. It's more. For me, it's more like what's my internal struggle with it that needs work there. It's like like I live my dad's pain in my head, more than he probably knows. And so if you're talking about a practical role within his existence and my relationship to him, I don't particularly think that needs that much redefining, because it just is what it is. And I feel like I'm actually, I've had to kind of, there has to be a certain element of coldness there, because he is a drinker, and because if he's going to continue to do that to himself, then I can't be coming in to save him every time, in a practical sense, in a real world sense. But what I do need to work on is my internal life with all of that, because there's so much guilt, and there's so much sadness around it. When it comes to my mother, it's different, because I definitely think that in a real world sense, there is too much kind of showing that I'm there for her for whatever she needs, and too much of her kind of thinking that she can lean on me whenever she wants for whatever she needs, whether it be checking her bank account balance or, whatever else. It's like, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah, just I'm thinking of how so many people cross over the role of caretaker with the love and loyalty role, like within our dynamics with our loved ones. Ideally, we don't want to be in a caretaking role. You want to just be able to love, and of course love with a degree of loyalty. Families are loyal to each other by and large. And when I look at you, I'm questioning, how much of this is caretaking versus how much of this is just the loving son participating in a loyal way, in the life of his parents. Um, can you can you identify caretaking behavior?
Um, well, I suppose the one I just mentioned would be a good one.
Mum's bank account.
Yeah, like she doesn't get all the text, going online and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, she doesn't ever know how much money she has. So I'm like, she calls me to find out how much money she has. And it's like, Rebecca's always like, your mum should know how to check her bank account. Like,
Yeah. Again, I hear you say she calls me to check how much money she has. And what I hear is, well, she called you. Again,
mm-hmm.
this is her connection, her way of connecting with you. The role you play gives her permission, gives her reasoning to be in touch, to connect. And,
Yeah.
to educate your mum, not about how to work out her bank account, because she's well capable of doing that, but to educate her on the type of role that you two can have that doesn't require her to demand caretaking from you, to show her that that's not necessary in order for the connection to happen. That can be interesting, to phone her and connect with her and speak with her, and to purposefully not get into the practicals, to not ask, do you need help with anything, or, how did you get on with, like to be awake and aware of just ringing her to shoot the breeze and purposefully not get into the caretaking dialogue, and to practice doing that. And you'll find that as you do that, she will just automatically slip into her own role of, getting practical, reaching out, asking you for the usual help. And if you can, in that conversation, discourage that, distract from it, just come back to the chit chat. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you ring her, you talk, you chit chat. She says, "Oh, by the way, I need help with the X or the Y. I'm wondering if you maybe could go online and do that for me." And you go, "Well, look, we can get to that another time. Today, I just want to chit chat about life, and maybe we can do that on another day. Would you be okay with that?" And sort of just push it to one side, move it along. Don't allow it to sort of hijack the conversation when then you go into that fixing role. Try and keep it in the gentle back and forth dialogue where there's no real demand on each other. Nothing's being demanded of you. You're not demanding anything of her. So if you can have what they call in AA the non-demand communication with each other, that's something worth a bit of practice.
Cool. Yeah. And would you say the same from my father? Because I do call him and try and cajole him into this and that. But
Yeah. Cajole him into what?
well, like, I mean, at the moment, I'm trying to get him to go to either a smart recovery group or an AA group in where he lives in Kilkenny. But it's like, it's really, Yeah, it's really. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm talking to a wall, but I feel. I guess there's an element of like I want to feel like I'm doing something, you know.
When you say doing something, Stephen, it's to suggest that if you don't try and cajole him, then there's no real value to the conversation otherwise.
No, I don't think that's true because I call him because I know that he's lonely as well, and I know that there's
Mm.
value in just hearing my voice, and you know,
And tell me how often he calls you.
he doesn't call me. I call him.
Mm.
Rarely. I mean, he's called me maybe once in the last few months. It's
Yeah.
always me who calls him.
Would it be nice to sort of see his name come up on caller ID, that he's connecting with you now and again a little bit more? Would that be good?
Yeah, of course. But it's just, I mean, I think maybe he doesn't want to disturb me or something like that. And then I don't know. I don't know what
Mm.
it is. It's such
You
a
could ask
fucking
him.
strange situation.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's hard because yeah, I could ask him, of course, but then it's always very non-committal. He's really. It's just so hard. It's there's nothing normal about this situation I find myself in with my parents, you know, and it's
Mm.
like it's heavy.
Mm. And how do you know it's heavy? What's how? Where do you feel the weight?
Well, it's like I said last time. It's like it's on my shoulders and I suppose on my chest, and yeah, it's like a bag of bricks or sand or yeah.
And Stephen, if there was a magic wand to take it away, to remove all your responsibility, all the caretaking role, if we could take that away with one wave of a wand, would you would you take that? Would you take that wish? Would you have it removed?
Well, as long as no one was hurt in the process.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's say for a moment, um, the caretaking that they need, or they feel they need, the support systems they need. Let's say it was coming from another source. The wave of the wand gifts you the knowledge that they are being supported by others other than you. Okay. So now that's gone. That role, that caretaker role, is gone. It's something you'd welcome.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then what would be left
Of what?
of you guys? Your connection with each other. The caretaking role is so embedded. It's so deep in the marrow of the bones of this relationship that you have with them. I'm wondering, how would the relationship look if you weren't caretaking? What would be
Uh,
left?
I think there'd be you know, especially with my mum, I can speak with more certainty because my father was out of my life for a number of years when he was in England. So, with my mother, I can say it would be lighter because actually, what's very nice about what I have with my mother, however much she might drive me insane, and you know, with her kind of stubbornness on things, I'm very fond of her as a person, as in many ways, and she's a very kind person, and we're good mates. You know, if we find the right good level of in a good moment where we're both in good form, we can have a good chat and go you know, go for a walk or whatever, and then we connect well. You know,
Hmm.
um. So there would be a lot there. There is a lot there, beyond this this shit.
Hmm. So it would be easier to have that easy back and forth with your mum if the caretaking role was gone. Okay.
Yeah.
And more difficult with your dad.
Not necessarily because I don't really. It's not that I even am a caretaker for him. It's like I try to kind of be that person, but he's a lot more independent of spirit than my mum, even though he's lonely. He's just like, he just wants me to live my life. I know he does. He doesn't want to put anything on me, even though he does. He doesn't want that. He's an addict. He can't, he's deep in addiction.
Hmm.
But he's not trying to make me miserable. He's not actively going out of his way to make my life any harder than it may be. It's so, I mean, and actually, I connect with my dad very well when we're just, just having a chat. We've never had a full on deep father son relationship, but we have in a way. It's like in our own way, we have actually. It's like, but it's very ours. It's very unique. But it's certainly not your classic sitting by the fishing pond with your dad talking about anything that pops into your head. It's like, it's our way of connecting because he didn't get love as a child. And so he didn't know how to show me love. And so it just is what it is, and I've come to accept it for what it is. There's no resentment there anymore. There's a bit of pain and a bit of sadness, but I don't resent him. I don't hold anything against him. But yeah, I've gone around the world now. In answer to your question, there would be still a lot there because I like my dad as a person. I think he's very smart and and I enjoy when we connect again, when we have a good moment. It's very nice.
And the platform on which you connect at the best level. For some, for some sort of adult children with their parents, it's on a text, it's in a coffee shop, it's on the phone, it's at the kitchen table in the family home. Different platforms allow the people involved sometimes to find their very best way of communicating. People will sometimes say to me, "Oh, myself and my partner, we're at our best resolve when we work out our differences walking in the park. So we're not facing each other. We're walking parallel, straight on in the outdoors, and there's an opportunity to think differently. And, so different environments create different potential mindsets. So what's the dynamic or what's the scenario that works best for you and your dad, do you think?
I suppose maybe we've talked most when we've been in the car in our lives. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, he was out of my life for a number of years, so it's hard to kind of pinpoint. Definitely not in the house. Like, I mean, there is no family home anymore. They both live separately, but like, definitely it was never historically in the house. When he was in the house, it was like, I always felt like we were like, because he was, had a parish and had all these people who looked to him, and he would be preaching on a Sunday morning and blah, blah, blah. And he would be the rosiest, glowiest, friendliest face to all these people. And then inside the house, boom, different guy. And not in a malicious way, just like different guy, just like, I need to switch off now. I can't be on all the time. And he would retreat. And so it was no connection in the house at all. Not even a lot of the time having dinner together, it would be separate rooms and TV and all that. So, but yeah, I guess my dad used to drive me to school every day, and so driving kind of comes to mind straight away. Has been even recently when I was home in Ireland, we were out for a drive, and I felt like I could talk to him more in the car, looking forward,
Yeah.
I remember when I was like 13 and I just started secondary school, and we were sitting in the car, and he said, kind of looking forward, he said, enjoy these years. They'll be the best of your life. And it was a big deal for him to say that, I knew in that moment, because he never gave advice or never passed down it really that much. He never, it wasn't just he didn't feel, I think, that I don't know what it was. He just didn't. And he didn't have much confidence in his imparting of advice to me, I think. But I remember that. I guess I remember that moment so clearly because it was so rare. But it was looking forward, sitting in the car, and yeah. And the only other times was playing golf, I guess. But then, yeah,
That wasn't necessarily very frequent either.
it was when I was 10. He bought me a set of golf clubs, and he used to bring me to play golf all the time. But yeah, it kind of fell off as I became a teenager. You know, I was a bit of a tearaway as a teenager, so you know, it kind of, yeah, as a lot of teenagers are. But that was the time when I pushed them away. You know.
Mm. And by the way, when you did play golf, or when he drove you to school, was it more so just about being in the presence of each other, or was there a lot of talk? I mean, you talk about the wisdom being passed down was very rare. So I'm hearing you say that was time spent together in the car or on the golf course, but not necessarily time spent connecting through words.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we used to listen to the radio, like we'd be listening to the news or current affairs, or like he always listened to BBC radio. It was like Radio 5 Live or something. And so like I remember like just like all these different current affairs things, and then we'd like talk about them. And I think that's why I have this like really deep connection to like the news. and
Yeah.
and like and I feel very, yeah, I don't know, it's something kind of strangely comforting about it, because about current affairs, which is weird. But yeah, there was a connection there, and we would talk about different things, I think. And even, you know, that's a way we still connect, actually. If there's a good moment of clarity, we'll talk about stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm. So I'm wondering, I'm hearing you say that, you know, the sort of current affairs debate, your intellect, your observations, good influence from dad on you in those earlier years. What other contributions do you think your father has made to shaping who you are?
Oh, like, sorry, like I'm getting emotional because I think he has done so much for me, like without even knowing it, you know. He,
Mm.
it, both of them are like, I'm very happy in myself today, and it's because I had, whatever their flaws, I had very good models of how to go about this world in many ways, how to connect with people, how to listen, how to smile and be kind. So much came from them. And I feel a great sadness because I don't have them really in my life now, and it's kind of tragic for me. But so much, and you know, and the intelligence. He's he's an intelligent man. You know,
Mm.
he, and you know, for me, above all, kindness from both of my parents is a soft approach to the world. And but what's interesting about both of them is that it's not very conscious. It's not very deliberate. I think there's something in my generation where we're a bit too, you know, kind of intentional. This fucking word, intentional. But I use it a lot myself. I'm very intentional about this, intentional about that, and I'm intentionally, you know, going about my life in a good way. They weren't intentionally doing anything. They were just who they were, who they are. And there's an innate goodness. I mean, I have that too. I know I do, but it's also, I'm conscious of it. I don't think there was much consciousness of how good they were to people, you know. It's just they
Yeah.
went about it, and I learned a lot. I mean, I learned a huge amount without them even trying to teach me that.
Yeah. Have you had the opportunity to to tell your dad or your mum this?
I, I, I think I might have said something to my mum. I mean, I make little speeches to my mum all the time about this and that, and when we're in a good place on walks. But I don't think. I mean, actually, you know what? I have, Zach. Yes, I have. I have. I've made it very clear to my dad. Yeah, in when he was here last, um, I actually sat him down and told him explicitly these things.
Hmm. And but it doesn't. I'm guessing it is relatively infrequent. Um, I'm just wondering if there is. You know the way. You know the way sometimes when if I said to you, okay, I'd like you to email your father. You know,
Yeah,
sometimes when we think about it, emailing or writing a letter to a loved one, it's sort of it's laden with the presumption that there's something that has to be shared, or there's a challenge that has to be met, or a criticism that needs to be put out there. Um, and especially in a family where there's disease, where there is addiction, you know, often the big symbolic letters or emails are very challenging and interventional and so forth. But I don't know. I like the idea of you penning or emailing your dad purely just maybe to express some of that gratitude you just talked about. And I know you say you've already shown your gratitude to him. You have expressed it before, but it just might be nice for both of you um,
I
if
would.
you considered putting thought, just what you shared with me today, down on screen or on paper. It might be nice to share that with them again. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
No, I really like that. I really like that idea, and the problem for me, Zach, is that my dad is very unemotional and very emotionally, I suppose, disconnected. At least he presents himself that way. He, I think there's a great fear for him of, I don't know, showing too much expression in any way or another. And so, like, it's sometimes very hard for me because if I do express something like that, I mean, he can write, actually. That's one thing he can do very well. He can express himself through writing. But when I say these things to him in person, it'll just be like a one word response, like thank you or yes or whatever. And it kind of, for me, it feels like, well, is this guy actually hearing me? Are my words actually landing with him? Is, and it kind of, after a while, you're just kind of, well, fuck this,
So you're aware of how your father doesn't communicate well. You know the platforms that it doesn't really work for him.
Yeah,
But you
talking.
say, yeah, talking. But he's great with the written word.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Okay. Hmm. So how do you feel about, as we say, maybe penning something for him?
Yeah, I think it could be, you know, for me anyway, and I think for him it would be quite powerful. Yet, if I could get something of what of what I feel towards him in terms of, only in from a positive perspective. I think he's, my dad. I don't hold anything against my dad, like I said, anymore, about his addiction, about the fact that he ended his marriage with my mum. I get it. Like, I get it because he wasn't happy in his marriage. And so he needed to, and he met someone who at the time made him happy and he moved on. And, you know, there was a lot of emails back and forth about that, I can tell you. And he really, he was very expressive
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
his ways of trying to convince me that this was exactly the right thing for him. And in many ways, when I look, actually still have those emails. And, you can see that from those words that he really felt justified, and I can understand in many ways why he did feel justified.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think I've just moved away from the point. I feel like, yes, it would be a good idea to open a dialogue. I just don't like. I I feel like there is an there is an acceptance within me that I'm never going to change my parents, you know. And in some ways, that's why I'm maybe, I think, a little bit lazy about just everything to do with them, including redefining my role and all that stuff. Because it's like, is it a bit late in the day for all of this, you know? And you know, and also with my dad's addiction, it's like, I don't know if he'll ever stop drinking. And, you know, if he never stops drinking, part of me goes, what's the fucking point in anything, in any of this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I going to, is there going to be some healing for him? Is there going to, is an email going to miraculously get him into an AA meeting? I mean, you know, I got him into AA meetings when he came here for a month, and last year he went sober for a month, and he went to AA every day with me. We sat through AA meetings every morning online for a month, or actually more than a month, 6 weeks or something. Anyway, he went back to Ireland and he started drinking again. So it's like,
wow,
you know.
Hmm.
So,
but what a very interesting time, Stephen. You know, 5-6 weeks straight, AA meetings every single day. The two of you doing that together. You
we really
going
connected.
with him. Yeah, yeah. Was there? Did he manage any? Did he manage any better dialogue during that 5-6 weeks with you after meetings? Like, was there, or was he vocal? May I ask if he was vocal within the meetings?
Yeah, actually, you know, it's really interesting to reflect on that time, because you were asking me about how expressive and how you communicate, blah, blah, blah. During that time, he was a different human being. And I think on it very fondly, actually, because it was like 5 weeks, I think, because the first couple of weeks he came and he said he wasn't going to drink. I said, you can only come to Romania if you don't drink. And he arrived into the airport and he was drunk. And I was so angry. And then for 2 weeks he was drinking. And then one day I just got him in the car while he was still drunk. And I brought him to a psychiatrist that I'd heard of, who put him on a detox. And in Romania, you get amazing detoxes, you know, without too much money and without too much rigmarole, I can imagine it is in Ireland. And anyway, he was on this very good detox, and the next day in AA every day, and the change was amazing. Like, the guy just lit up, and he was so like, he couldn't understand how he'd been drinking for so long. He was just so like, he and we had this amazingly emotional goodbye at the airport. We were crying. He shouted, "I love you," as I drove away. And then 3 days later, he was drinking again.
Oh, God. Yeah.
You know, but like, it was a powerful time. If I only ever had that time with my dad, I'd be happy, you know? Like, it really was. And we talked, and I was able to offer him so much in terms of my own experience, and yeah, we really connected, actually. So that was that's the thing, Zach. That's the thing. That's the tragic thing about all of this. It's like, that's the real guy, you know?
Yeah.
That's the real him. And like, this is the real me. 7 years of not drinking. This is the real me. The guy I was before, when I first met you, that wasn't me. That was some guy who was completely obsessed with a fucking substance that was killing him. And that's what my dad has got. And it's a fucking tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you just had that 6 weeks. You know, you may have them again. It might be nice to remind your dad of that, you know, maybe not necessarily in the next letter or email, but, you know, at some point, just to remind him of just what a beautiful time that was for you, you know, and what it meant to you. Not to manipulate him into sobriety, but just to share with him just the value that brought to your relationship with him, to remind him of that. it might be quite a powerful thing to give him that reminder, and
Yeah.
bring that back to both of your awarenesses again. Um, yeah, I'm sorry it's been so painful for you.
Yeah, I guess it has, but I don't really. I just keep going,
Yeah, you do. You keep going. You march on, march on, march on. You're always marching on. Great survival instinct. Um, and I do hear, how good your family are. The goodness, the good character, the good nature of the people involved. I really hear that in all of our conversations, and I hear it in your. I mean, they reared you, for better or worse. They reared you, and I can hear that and see that goodness in your nature, in your personality. So um, we got to hang on to all the golden nuggets of memory and relationship with our parents. Not to forget all the darker times, but we have to hold on to the golden nuggets, hold them, because because it is a mixed tapestry of experiences for everybody in all family dynamics, all relationships, and clearly where addiction plays a part in a family, there's clearly so much more pain and so much more dis-ease for everyone. But it's nice today to hear you reflect on some of the more wonderful moments that you have had. Important that we remind ourselves of these things as we journey on.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good to talk, to kind of dig these things up, if you like. I mean, I think, going back to the kind of start of the talk today and the objective, I guess, or I don't, whatever way you want to put it, like the arranged thinking behind these current sessions of relieving the baggage. I think just by recognizing it at least is a step in the right direction. Recognizing the weight of it, and also the the truth of it, and also the lighter elements of it, and all the
Yeah.
elements of it.
What we're doing in session is we're being with it. We're just being with it. And we don't have to worry so much about intention, outcome, agenda. Sometimes your leather-bound journals are really helpful. Um, Other times not so. Just being with these experiences and just sitting into them in our conversation is unto itself helpful. It shifts the sands, it changes things. It has impact. We don't always see how. Sometimes there's delayed impact, sometimes it's immediate. We know for sure that you have the courage to bring your vulnerability to the table. That vulnerare, that woundedness, you bring that within your vulnerability. And because you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you therefore allow yourself to heal, because your vulnerability brings healing. And sometimes it happens like today in this way, as we're just with this topic and we're with these feelings. And that's what makes our work together always interesting, never boring.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It never ceases to surprise me. That's for sure.
Yeah. How are you going to spend the rest of your day today?
I'm gonna be finishing off some projects, which I'm happy to finish, and I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna be meeting my dog trainer to get some control on my dog,
Mm.
and probably, yeah, just like an easy evening then, and just, yeah, take it gentle.
Take it gentle and give some thought to penning something for Dad at some point, maybe. And maybe just an extra little suggestion that it might be nice if when you're talking to dad next, you might say to him, do you know what? Could we maybe think about just once a week on a particular day around a particular time, Sunday evening, 8 o'clock-ish or whatever it might be, that maybe you'd give me a call, connect in with me rather than just me always making the phone calls. It's I don't mind doing it, but it's just a little one-sided, or word it with them in a way that maybe just encourage them to just connect in with you with a regular slot. Because sometimes when you agree something regular, it's easier for a person to adapt that rather than just saying, you should call me more often.
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to make him ring you, but I just think there might be a value in putting it out there, maybe suggesting he connects in at an agreed time. Would you give that some thought and give me some feedback on it next time?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. Yeah, until next time, mind yourself.
Disclaimer. The opinions expressed by our presenters are entirely their own. We believe in fostering an environment that values intellectual diversity, enabling our presenters to share their unique insights and viewpoints. It is crucial for our audience to recognise that the opinions articulated during the course of this programme are those of the individual presenters and do not reflect or represent any other individuals, agencies or organisations. If you wish to contact Zach Powers, please email him at bergenpsychological.com. If you wish to contact Stephen, please go to stevendaltonvo.com.